class. You're welcome to Wanies Academy. In our mathematics class today, we're looking at estimating square roots. And the aim of the lesson is to understand how to estimate square roots. The instruction material that we're using in this topic is a perfect square chart. And the objective of the lesson is that at the end of the lesson, you'll be able to know the steps on how to estimate the square root of a non-square numbers. The keywords in this topic is a perfect square or a square number. And what's a perfect square? A perfect square is a number that results from squaring an integer or multiplying an integer by itself. You can have it at 1 is a perfect square, 4 is a perfect square, 9 is a perfect square, 16 is a perfect square, 25 is a perfect square. And you should also know that the square root of a perfect square is an integer. If we look for the square root of 1, we're going to have this to be 1. The square root of 4 is going to give us 2. The square root of 9 is going to give us 3. The square root of 16 is going to give us 4. And the square root of 25 is going to give us 5. All right. Now, let's now look at steps on how to estimate the square root of a non-square number. Now, the first step that we're going to look at here is find the perfect square root before and after the given number. And the second step is that you have to look for the number or the square root which is closer. Then lastly, what we're going to do is to give your best estimate. So we are going to look at these 3 steps in the 3 examples that we'll be looking at in this topic. Example 1, estimate square root 11. So the first thing that we're going to do here is to look for the perfect square that is before and after 11. All right, so let's have this to be square root 11. The perfect square before 11, we have this to be 9. And the perfect square after 11, we have this to be 16. The square root of 9, we have this to be 3. And the square root of 16, we have this to be 4. All right. Now, look at 9 and 16. 9 is very much closer to 11 than it is to 16. So we can have the estimate of the square root of 11 to be 3.3. And this is going to be the square root of 11. So we can have the square root of 11 to be 3.3. We're going to move to the next example. In example 2, we are asked to estimate the square root of 77. So we have here to the square root of 77. So the first thing I'm going to do here is to look for the perfect square that's just before 77. And we have that to be 64. Also, the perfect square that is just after 77, we have that to be 81. Then the square root of 64, we have this to be 8. And the square root of 81, we have this to be 9. Now, if we look at 81, 81 is very much closer to 77 than it is to 64. So we can have the square root of 77 to be 8.8. Why? Because it is closer to the square root of 81. Then the square root of 77 will be 8.8. So that's what we have here. Square root of 77 equals to 8.8. Now to the last example that we're looking at in this topic. We are asked to estimate the square root of 30. So we have here the square root of 30. The first thing that we're going to do here is to look for the perfect square that is just before 30, and that's 25. And the perfect square that is just after 30, we have that with 36. The square root of 25, we have this to be 5. And the square root of 36, we have this to be 6. Now, if you look at 30, you can see that 30 is roughly in between 25 and 36. Then we can now have the square root of 30 because it's in between 25 and just in between 25 and 36. So we can have that to be 5.5. So we can have the square root of 30 to be equals to 5.5. So that will be all for today. Once again, if you want to find or to look for the estimate of the square root of a non-square number, the first thing that you have to do is to look for the perfect square root before and after the given number. The next step is to look for the square root that's closer to the square root of the given number. Then the next is to give your best estimate. So that will be all for today. Thank you for joining the class. And if you haven't subscribed, do well to subscribe now. Thank you and see you in the next class. Bye.